Welcome to Goal to Goal. This time we scour the back pages for the best football headlines of all time. From the match-fixing and drug scandals that rocked the soccer industry to the terrible tragedy that broke the hearts of fans worldwide. We'll also be winding back the clock to check out some of the greatest moments in football history. That's all coming up on Goal to Goal. The World Cup. It's the pinnacle of any footballer's career, the birthplace of heroes where dreams become reality. However, the World Cup doesn't only create heroes, it also gives birth to villains. In the pressure cooker of the World Cup finals, players handle the pressures differently. Some meditate, some indulge in rituals, some even consult sporting psychologists in an attempt to keep a handle on the high levels of stress they face in every game. But no matter what measures players take to stay cool, the pressure to perform on the world stage can make even the most experienced campaigners do some funny things. Celebrated as one of the world's top players and possibly the best ever to come out of France, Zinedine Zidane had the opportunity to stage the perfect finish to a highly decorated football career. With Brazil already out of the competition, his team went into the 2006 World Cup final as favourites to beat Italy. It was a final that would come to be remembered for many different reasons. The game got off to a frantic start, with both teams scoring in the first 20 minutes. The match then turned into a defensive arm wrestle, testing the mental strength of both sides. Late in extra time, with the scores still tied at 1 apiece, Zidane was in the thick of the action. And if it hadn't been for the lightning reflexes of Italian goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon, Zidane would have scored the match-winning goal. That touch of brilliance was the last the fans would ever see from Zidane, as in the 110th minute, the intense pressure got the better of him. In what can only be described as a mental meltdown, Zidane suddenly stopped, turned, and rammed his head into Marco Materazzi's chest, knocking him to the ground. Although play was halted, referee Horacio Elizondo did not appear to have seen the confrontation. After consulting his assistants, Elizondo issued Zidane a red card. This saw the midfielder miss the match-deciding penalty shootout, which France lost 3-5. All hopes of a fairy-tale finish for Zidane were dashed. After reviewing video evidence that suggested that Materazzi had verbally provoked Zidane, the world-famous British press wasted no time in hiring lip readers to discover what had caused Zidane to lose his cool. English newspaper The Times believed that Materazzi called Zidane the son of a terrorist whore. However, it wasn't until 2 months after the event that some real light was shed on the incident. Materazzi, who has refused to publicly apologize to Zidane, offered his version of events. After grabbing Zidane's jersey, he claimed that Zidane had sarcastically offered it to him. And Materazzi responded by telling the Frenchman he'd rather take his sister. Materazzi later stated in an interview that his precise words to Zidane were, "I prefer the whore that is your sister." Fans were split on whether Materazzi's comments crossed the line and whether Zidane's actions were therefore justified. The interview was disappointing because we would have liked to know what was said. He should have said clearly what happened. If he headbutted this man only because Materazzi insulted his mother and his sister, I think it's a little too much. I think Zidane was right to headbutt Materazzi because he probably said awful words, and I would have done the same. I would have hit him on the nose or in the teeth. The teeth are costing a lot of money. Shortly after the final, Zidane's home country was as divided as the rest of the world. French President Jacques Chirac hailed Zidane as a national hero and called him a man of conviction.
Cher Zinedine Zidane, ce que je veux vous dire.
Zinedine Zidane, I want to express all the nation's admiration, fondness and respect as well, despite these very difficult moments of your career.
Et c'est l'affection de la nation tout entière, son respect aussi, mais l'affection et l'admiration.
You are a brilliant soccer player, a genius of the football. You are a passionate man,
Vous êtes
a man
aussi
of conviction,
un homme de cœur, d'engagement.
and that is why France admires you
Que la
and loves you.
vous admire et vous aime.
He later added that although the offence remained unacceptable, he understood that Zidane had been provoked. Clearly remorseful, Zidane quickly apologised for his actions to the children who had been watching the game around the world. However, he refused to apologise to Materazzi, claiming he didn't want to show that it was all right to verbally abuse someone. Luckily for Zidane, his apology not only won the hearts of many fans, it also soothed his sponsors, who remained by his side throughout the ordeal. FIFA was quick to launch an investigation into the matter, which even today seems to have left some questions unanswered. In response to its inquiry, FIFA issued the following penalties.
Zinedine Zidane has been suspended for 3 matches and fined with 7,500 Swiss francs. However, and that's the big important information, the committee has taken note that Zinedine Zidane has ended his international career and has taken note of Zinedine Zidane's gesture to do 3 days of community service within the FIFA humanitarian activities.
The whole debacle certainly brought new meaning to the old adage that 2 wrongs don't make a right. In the 1994 World Cup, it was the Italians who were on the end of a controversial loss. The second highest goal scorer and one of the best players of the tournament, Roberto Baggio, had the chance to etch his name in the history books in the final. After 120 tense and goalless minutes, Brazil and Italy were left to decide who would win the trophy via a penalty shootout, the first ever to decide a World Cup final. After 4 rounds of the shootout, Brazil led 3-2. Baggio, who had been playing injured, stepped up to the spot. His shot clearly had the keeper beaten, but was too high and sailed over the top of the bar. Brazil had won their 4th World Cup, and Baggio was left standing alone in front of the goal, stunned in disbelief. Despite the fact that other players had missed shots and that Baggio had made a huge contribution to securing Italy's place in the final, he became the #1 scapegoat and was singled out for costing Italy the World Cup. After the tournament, Baggio signed with Inter Milan. The move proved disastrous for him, as the then coach Marcello Lippi had little time for him and often left him sitting on the bench. His lack of match time consequently caused Baggio to lose his place in the national team, but whenever he was allowed onto the pitch, he never left fans disappointed. In his autobiography, Baggio claimed that Lippi would not play him because he refused to tell the manager which players were talking negatively about him. Some fans have suggested that Lippi never forgave Baggio for missing that crucial penalty against Brazil. By not playing Baggio, he made sure that such a mistake would never be repeated. In 2000, he moved to Brescia, where he hoped to play enough games to allow his selection in the 2002 World Cup. To the disgust of many Baggio fans, however, it wasn't to be, as Italian coach Giovanni Trapattoni excluded him from the squad. Upon his retirement in 2004, Baggio could lay claim to a solid career both domestically and internationally. But tragically, it seems that neither he nor many of the Italian fans were ever able to get over that one missed penalty. Rather more serious than Baggio's missed opportunity, there is one event in football history that fans of the game will surely never forget. And that's the Munich Air disaster of 1958. On the return flight to London after their European Cup clash with Yugoslavian team Red Star Belgrade, Manchester United's charter plane made a scheduled stop at Munich to refuel on the freezing cold afternoon of February the 6th. After 2 failed attempts at taking off from the airport, the pilot then attempted to take off for the 3rd time. With slush covering the end of the runway, the plane failed to get up enough speed to reach an adequate height. With nowhere to go, it ploughed into the fence surrounding the airport and then into an unoccupied house. The port wing and part of the tail were torn off, and the house caught fire. The left side of the cockpit hit a tree, and the right side of the fuselage collided with a wooden hut, inside which was a truck filled with tyres and fuel, which exploded. The initial impact was estimated to have occurred at just under 200 kilometres an hour. The 44 passengers on board included journalists, supporters, and the current Manchester United starting lineup, nicknamed the Busby Babes. Onlookers feared the worst. With fragments of the planes scattered across the Munich landscape and petrol-driven flames engulfing the majority of the wreckage, the chance of finding survivors looked slim. Miraculously, 21 out of the 44 passengers survived the horrific crash. Among the dead were 8 Manchester United players and 3 of the club's staff. One player who made it out of the wreckage of British European Airways Flight 609 was a young footballer named Bobby Charlton. Charlton went on to become a crucial component in the resurrection of his shattered club. With help from another soccer legend, George Best, Manchester United were back on top just 10 years after the crash, winning the European Cup in 1968. In a recent commemoration of the tragedy's 50-year anniversary, Manchester United fans, officials and survivors of the disaster gathered to pay their respects. Thousands stood outside the club's home ground of Old Trafford and laid floral tributes on a sunny Manchester afternoon. With 5 survivors of the disaster attending, including the great Sir Bobby Charlton, they were keen to remind everyone that the friends that were lost in the disaster live on in their hearts. The many plaques already placed at Old Trafford and at the scene of the Munich disaster were joined by more tributes to those who died in the tragedy. A permanent exhibition honouring Busby's Babes in the South Stand Tunnel at Old Trafford was opened shortly before the anniversary, renaming it the Munich Tunnel. Coming up, we investigate the drug and match-fixing scandals that shocked the world. Diego Maradona, undoubtedly one of the greatest players ever to grace a pitch. His international career spanned more than 3 decades, during which he played in 4 World Cups and was part of Argentina's triumphant success in 1986, when they took out the title against West Germany. Hailed as a hero in his home country, devoted fans literally worship at the Church of Maradona, where they pray to their living God. He was named as the FIFA Player of the Century, an award which he shared with Pelé. FIFA also attributed him with scoring the goal of the century for evading 6 England defenders over a 60-metre weave to score a remarkable goal in the 1986 World Cup. Although he retired more than a decade ago, Maradona is still constantly in the spotlight. He's idolised by millions of Argentinians. Maradona's actions, beliefs and words hold more sway with his followers than those of any politician. When he failed a drug test in 1991 while at Italian club Napoli, the soccer world, particularly in Argentina, was sent spinning into damage control. Known for enjoying the party lifestyle perhaps a little too much, Maradona was found guilty of having cocaine in his system. The positive reading brought with it a 15-month suspension from playing football. Too devastated to acknowledge the truth, many of his fans and even some reporters called into question the testing methods that had led to the positive result. Rumours of skullduggery began doing the rounds, leading to much finger-pointing and countless conspiracy theories. Even today, the official Maradona website refuses to accept the outcome of that test as genuine, labelling it as a doping affair that is still suspicious. Too embarrassed, angry or both to stay on in Italy, Maradona fled to Spanish club Sevilla to resume his football career. However, just 2 years later, Maradona once again tested positive to a banned substance. This time, the 33-year-old was found to have taken a banned stimulant during the 1994 World Cup. The drug ephedrine, often used to help clear respiratory problems, was found to be in Maradona's system after a random drug test came back positive. The same drug that caused the American swimmer Rick Dumont to be stripped of a gold medal at the 1972 Olympics, it's believed to assist with concentration in a similar way to caffeine. Ephedrine, however, is a more powerful stimulant than caffeine and can allow the user to concentrate for lengthy periods of time. It's unfortunate, however, that Maradona wasn't able to concentrate for long enough to realize that taking a banned substance would once again plunge him in hot water. FIFA handed Maradona another 15-month suspension, which put an end to his international career. Retiring from football in 1997 at the age of 37, he continued to make the headlines, and once again, for all the wrong reasons. His penchant for partying and taking cocaine escalated after his retirement. Although he tried several times to kick his bad habits with help from Swiss and Cuban detox clinics, his addiction to cocaine, which had haunted him for more than a decade, proved rather hard to shake off. In 2004, it almost took his life. On April the 18th, doctors reported that Maradona had suffered a major heart attack following a cocaine overdose. He was admitted to intensive care in a Buenos Aires hospital, and thousands of fans gathered outside to pay their respects to the soccer god and pray for his recovery. After almost a week of being close to death, Maradona showed signs of improvement and was taken off a respirator and discharged shortly after. This close shave finally convinced him to stop using drugs. But it didn't solve his eating and drinking issues. With his health in serious trouble and suffering from increasing obesity, Maradona resorted to gastric bypass surgery. Effectively, his stomach was stapled to prevent him from eating too much. However, so much damage had already been done that his health problems persisted. Upon his release from hospital in April 2007 after treatment for hepatitis and alcohol abuse, Maradona was readmitted with serious complications. Once again, devoted fans surrounded the hospital. Some even began to mourn as rumours of his death leaked out to the media. This, however, was not true. Fortunately, he's alive. There are no obstacles. He's continuing with the treatment. The clinic will now hand you a written update, but he is alive. He doesn't have any problem. The rumours had begun when an anonymous caller phoned the local television networks and announced his death after days without an update. To quell the Chinese whispers, the Buenos Aires clinic released this statement.
To the media, and in the face of some newspaper reports, we inform you that Diego Armando Maradona is clinically stable, with no complications whatsoever regarding his health, and he continues on the established treatment plan.
After his second health scare in 3 years, Maradona swore off the booze and began a healthier lifestyle. His fans were with him every step of the way and weren't afraid of giving advice when asked. He's pretty big now, the fatty. He has to rest a bit, be a bit calmer, and just be himself, believe in himself. As for the rest, there are a lot of people who are worried for him.
Are you worried about him?
Yes, because I love him, because he gave us everything, and, well, my team is Boca. After his long and controversial career, the Argentinian football god may have at last exorcised his demons. Maradona isn't the only soccer star to have enjoyed the party lifestyle. In fact, one of England's most renowned football identities, George Best, was just as famous for his antics off the field as on. He led a playboy lifestyle in which football, women, partying and drinking were the key ingredients. At naturally gifted on the pitch, Best had the potential to be one of the greatest players of all time. However, the fun he had off the field began to consume him, and not surprisingly, his football suffered. Despite that handicap, Best is still remembered as a fantastic footballer and was named 16th in the World Player of the Century in 1999. It's mind-boggling to imagine what Best might have achieved if he hadn't been so bent on self-destruction. Best's lovable, cheeky image won him legions of fans, both during his career and after. The public loved him in spite of his public displays of drunkenness, his convictions for drink driving and assaulting a policeman, allegations of domestic violence, and his inability to give up drinking even after he was given a liver transplant. Labelled as one of football's first celebrities, Best's lifestyle ultimately led to his death in 2005 at the age of just 59. With so much money and fame now surrounding the game at the top level, it's not uncommon for elite players to get drawn into the temptations of a ready-made party scene. Although drug and alcohol education programs have been set up to guard against such traps, the message doesn't get through to everyone. One player who fell between the cracks was former Chelsea and Australia goalkeeper Marco Materazzi, who was banned for 9 months in 2003 for drug use. English Premier defender Rio Ferdinand also received a 9-month suspension for missing a drug test. In 2004, it was Romanian international and Chelsea striker Adrian Mutu who stole the headlines after testing positive for the drug cocaine. Just when his football career was starting to blossom, Mutu almost lost it all after a night of hard partying. Signed in 2003 for a huge transfer fee of just over £22 million, the young striker impressed fans and commentators alike with his precise free kicks and uncanny ability to find the back of the net. Despite a difficult relationship with former Chelsea manager Jose Mourinho, Mutu's future at the club looked to be on the up and up. However, his rise through the ranks came to a sudden halt when the positive test led to his immediate sacking from the English Premier League powerhouse club. The English Football Association also acted quickly on Mutu's test results, slapping him with a lengthy ban. Unlike many other fallen stars, Mutu was willing to admit he made a mistake and made no excuses for his actions. I didn't come here to excuse myself because I have no excuses for what I did. I came to apologize and to say I'm sorry to all the people I disappointed, and in these 7 months I will try to train and become much better than I was before. Despite his fall from grace, Mutu has handled himself extremely well since the ban. Clearly understanding the potential ramifications of his drug taking, he's thankful not to have lost everything and is keen to give advice to fellow players who find themselves in similar situations. When you're found positive, all you have or have had goes away. Career, national team, Chelsea, your family. It wasn't my case, but as I said, I never wanted to be an example because I felt I couldn't be a model. I made a lot of mistakes because my life wasn't exactly the life of a sportsman. That's why, if I were to give a piece of advice to other players, that would be to mind their own business and behave as role models. Italian club Juventus were keen to pick up the disgraced striker and offer him a second chance. After 1 year at the club, Mutu moved to Fiorentina, where his current form has earned him the nickname The Phenomenon. Drug scandals are not the only bad news items to have bombarded the headlines in recent years. In fact, they look like simple lapses of judgment next to the much more serious offences knowingly committed by other members of the footballing community. Within the space of 2 years, 2 investigations unveiled conspiracies to cheat in the worst way known to any sport. The kind of cheating commonly referred to as match fixing. The first of these conspiracies was uncovered within the ranks of Brazilian soccer in September of 2005. Among those involved were two referees, Edison Pereira de Carvalho, a member of the FIFA referee staff, and Paulo José Danilon. Both referees were offered substantial amounts of money by investors to fix results, according to what was determined by the betting websites Abet and Footbet. After confirming what matches they would fix, the investors offered to pay Carvalho between $4,500 and $6,500 per match. The investors would then make million-dollar bets online to receive a hefty return. It's believed that Carvalho and the illegal gambling ring assisted in altering the result of up to 11 matches in which Carvalho officiated in the Brazilian domestic championship. The colourful referee, who's renowned for kissing his yellow card and praying before the start of games, said he was first contacted in September 2004 and initially refused the lucrative offers. However, by February 2005 he changed his mind and helped America San Jose to a 4-1 win over Palmeiras in the Sao Paulo State Championships in return for a 10,000 real, or around $4,400. Carvalho said he accepted the money because he had debts of around $18,000. This happened during a match in February because of the amount of personal debt I had.
Did you owe a lot?
Well, what I consider to be a lot, which was 40,000 reals. The allure of the dollar has always had the power to turn heads, but considering what was at stake, Carvalho sold his soul to the devil for loose change. Admitting he was wrong seems something of an understatement. In a country where soccer is a religion to millions of people, playing God could have cost him a lot more than his job and freedom. The serious nature of the crime forced Brazil's Superior Sports Tribunal to make some drastic decisions. To many fans' disgust, they annulled the results of all 11 matches, requesting them to be replayed. The tribunal believed that replaying the 11 matches was the most effective solution. The other culprit, Danilon, confessed to police that he'd fixed 3 matches in the Sao Paulo State Championship in exchange for around $4,400 per game. The two men faced charges of fraud, conspiracy and crimes against the economy, along with businessman Naguib Fayed, who was alleged to have been one of the organisers of the gambling ring. Despite all the fuss, less than 1 year later, the soccer world was rocked by another match-fixing scandal. In May 2006, Italian police uncovered a match-fixing web that involved league champions Juventus and other major teams including AC Milan, Fiorentina, Lazio and Regina. The scandal was discovered after a number of recorded telephone conversations revealed a dense communication network involving team managers and referee organisations. The teams have been accused of rigging games by selecting favourable referees. Beginning in the 2004-05 season, transcripts of recorded telephone conversations suggest that Juventus general manager Luciano Moggi was in league with several Italian football officials to influence referee appointments. As the investigation continued, more and more clubs, players, officials, referees, managers, and even club owners were screened. In all, magistrates in Naples formally investigated 41 people and looked into 19 Serie A matches from the 2004-05 season and 14 Serie A matches from the 2005-06 season. What resulted from the investigation was one of the biggest shake-ups of any competition in domestic football history. 5 Serie A clubs were handed out severe punishments, ranging from relegation and loss of UEFA Champions League places to hefty fines and a requirement that home games be played behind closed doors. The most severely punished club was Juventus FC, who were stripped of their 2005 and 2006 titles and lost their Champions League spot. They were also forced to play 3 home games behind closed doors and endure relegation to Serie B. On a broader scale, the scandal highlighted many conflicts of interest within Italian football. The investigation led to widespread resignations, ranging from referees to television hosts. Out of the 41 individuals investigated, 18 were convicted, with the most severe penalties handed down to former Juventus general manager Luciano Moggi. Former Juventus chairman Antonio Giraudo also received major punishment for dodgy transfers, falsified accounts and tax evasion. Giraudo received a €20,000 fine, and both men were hit with a 5-year ban from football, with further recommendations to the Italian Football Federation that they be banned for life. Due to the controversy surrounding the clubs involved, many players left their Italian club the following season. In all, 22 players moved on, with a staggering 19 players deserting Juventus. The most successful club in Serie A history has now returned to Italy's top league after finishing on top in their first season in Serie B. Coming up, the footballers that have single-handedly changed the world game. Not all soccer headlines scream scandal. Many are reserved for trumpeting the glorious triumphs of teams, clubs and individuals. In December 1995, one headline swept across the world that would change the business of soccer forever. That headline, in its various versions on newspapers and television screens around the globe, pretty much boiled down to 2 words: Bosman won. This headline referred to Jean-Marc Bosman, who had won a 5-year court battle to win the right to move freely to another club at the end of his contract with his current club. Prior to that, clubs had traditionally paid transfer fees, even when a player was out of contract. This was to ensure that a club wouldn't be left out of pocket if a player refused to re-sign and wanted to move on. This also meant that a club could keep a player for as long as they wanted, even if the player wanted to leave. However, in 1990, Bosman, whose contract had expired with a club in Belgium, wanted to move to French team Dunkirk. Unfortunately, Dunkirk couldn't offer his Belgium club RFC Liège a large enough transfer fee, so the deal fell through. RFC Liège then proceeded to drop Bosman from the first team and reduce his salary. Obviously unhappy with the way he'd been treated, he took his case to the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg and sued for restraint of trade, citing FIFA's rules regarding football. After a long legal battle, Bosman won his case, and on December the 15th, 1995, the court ruled that the system constituted a restriction on the free movement of workers and was prohibited by Article 39 of the EC Treaty. Thanks to Jean-Marc Bosman, football players now have the right to a free transfer at the end of their contracts. Decades before Bosman went to the courts, another player staged a historical triumph and etched his name into the history books. The player was Stanley Matthews. His courtroom was Wembley Stadium, and his opponents were the all-conquering Bolton Wanderers in the 1953 FA Cup final. The Cup final of 1953 is a game that those who watched will never forget. For the 100,000 fans at Wembley who enjoyed the warmth of the spring sunshine, and the many fans who watched the game in the comfort of their own living rooms, it remains one of the most inspiring comebacks that the sport has ever witnessed. 2-1 down at the end of the first half and 3-1 down only 10 minutes into the second, Blackpool looked spent. They were undoubtedly out of sorts, and Bolton looked like they could already taste the champagne that would soon flow from winning the FA Cup. Knowing that the eyes of the nation were upon him, Matthews took control, bringing his teammates into the game with defence opening runs and brilliant crosses that forced the stagnant forwards into action. After an action-packed 20 minutes featuring an endless supply of missed opportunities, Blackpool finally levelled the game in the 89th minute. The atmosphere of 100,000 screaming fans was electric. With just seconds on the clock, almost everyone in the stadium was conceding that the game would be decided in extra time. Sir Stanley had other ideas. The seconds ticked away, yet Matthews stayed poised and calm as ever, cutting through the goal area with blistering pace and great ball control. As Mortensen streamed forward, a pass to the sharpshooter seemed a little too obvious for Matthews, and with yet another pinpoint pass, Matthews split the Bolton defence and found Perry, who kicked the winning goal with seconds to spare. On a special day that yielded the rare treat of an FA Cup final hat-trick, the day undoubtedly belonged to the brilliance of Sir Stanley Matthews. His tenacity, dazzling skill, sheer guts and determination defied all odds and treated those who witnessed it to a spectacular individual performance that may never be matched. Most English fans agree, however, that in terms of classic victories at Wembley Stadium, the Matthews final plays second fiddle to a game which was played out 13 years later. The 1966 FIFA World Cup final that saw England win its first and only World Cup trophy to date has to be labelled as the greatest moment in English football history. The surprise victory was celebrated long and hard by players, fans and commentators alike. Winning 4-2 against West Germany in extra time, one might assume that the topic of post-match conversations would revolve solely around England's giant-killing efforts in overcoming the odds to score soccer's top prize. In fact, it was England's third goal that stole the show. The goal that put them in the lead during extra time and effectively put an end to hopes of a West German victory became the subject of heated debate. During the 98th minute, a cross from Alan Ball found Geoff Hurst, whose attempt to hit the crossbar rebounded straight down to land just on or over the line, before being cleared by the West German defence. The rules state that the ball must be completely over the line to count as a goal. In this case, the 98,000 fans packed into Wembley Stadium and more than 400 million viewers around the world could clearly see that that hadn't happened. The referee, however, awarded the goal to England, and that decision remains one of the most controversial in World Cup history. A present-day player whose on-field performance comes close to the brilliance of Sir Stanley Matthews has recently been caught up in a very different kind of memorable event. After dropping off his girlfriend at her house in Rio de Janeiro one night in April 2008, the three-time FIFA World Player of the Year and 2002 World Cup winner Ronaldo picked up 3 prostitutes. Arriving at a discreet hotel, Ronaldo, who has admitted to having psychological problems stemming from his knee injury, soon discovered that the 3 ladies he'd picked up were in fact 3 men. The details of how Ronaldo discovered his mistake have not been released, but one can only imagine his shock at finding himself in such a compromising and newsworthy situation. Ronaldo alleges that they then tried to extort money from him to conceal the incident. Reports claim that one of the transvestites had taken his car documents and demanded $30,000 for their return. Rio police have since stated that there's a strong chance that Ronaldo has been the victim of extortion. And since paying for sex in Brazil is not a crime, Ronaldo has no case to answer. Whether or not his girlfriend feels the same way, it's likely that Ronaldo's dented pride and sense of lucky escape will keep him out of the gossip columns for a while to come. Meanwhile, his namesake Cristiano Ronaldo has found himself mixed up in a similar scandal that flooded the English newspapers. The News of the World, an English tabloid renowned for its trashy and sometimes questionable reporting, has labelled the Manchester United player a prostitute-loving soccer ace after it was claimed that he had a sleazy rendezvous with 2 call girls in Rome. Since being falsely accused of rape in 2005, the Portuguese winger has consistently found himself in sticky situations off the field. After a win against EPL side Aston Villa in late April of 2008, Ronaldo flew to Rome for a night out. It's believed that whilst there, he visited Rome's seedy red light district, where he arranged for 2 call girls to come back with him to his hotel. According to the News of the World, Ronaldo and an unknown friend made the most of their time in Rome. They began their big night out at the notorious Diva Futura Channel Club, where they allegedly indulged in several 120-pound bottles of champagne, 16-pound beers, and the odd private lap dance. This incident is not entirely out of character for the Manchester United winger. Only 4 months earlier, Ronaldo was linked to a wild party where 5 prostitutes were hired to entertain him and his Portuguese teammate Nani and Brazilian colleague Anderson. The women involved were keen to sell their story to the English tabloids after their unforgettable night with 3 young soccer superstars. The scandal not only landed him in hot water with his girlfriend Carolina Patrocinio, it also raised the hackles of manager Sir Alex Ferguson, whose beloved Man U prided themselves on being a family-oriented club with morals. Speculation about Ronaldo's potential transfer to Spanish superclub Real Madrid is sure to gather renewed momentum in the wake of this latest scandal. Ronaldo needs to find a way to keep his private life private and keep his focus on his first love, football. If not, he's destined to follow in the footsteps of other fallen greats like Maradona and George Best. No doubt Manchester United still has nightmares about the damaging sex scandal that surrounded Ronaldo's teammate Wayne Rooney in 2004. The then teenaged Rooney was linked to sleazy sessions with aging prostitutes at backstreet brothels in Liverpool. Perhaps surprisingly, Rooney was honest about the situation and admitted to visiting massage parlours and prostitutes. At the age of 18, he was seen as the casualty of a system that hands over millions of pounds to young men without giving them any training on how to handle their newfound fortune and fame. After the scandal broke, Rooney issued this statement to the British press. "I now regret it deeply and hope people may understand that it was the sort of mistake you make when you are young and stupid." Since this glitch in his promising career, Rooney seems to have settled down, or at very least, he's managed to keep his personal life out of the tabloids. Maybe Rooney should have a good old heart-to-heart with teammate Ronaldo and give him some advice on how to get his career back on track. Just like the aforementioned stars, the world's most famous footballer has had to endure his own troubles with the press. In fact, David Beckham and his Spice Girl wife Victoria were literally hounded by the tabloids at the first whiff of a sex scandal. In April 2004, while David was playing for Real Madrid, his personal assistant, Rebecca Luz, claimed that she had had an affair with the soccer superstar. With wife Victoria not overly keen on a move to Spain and a music career in England to salvage, it meant that she and Bex would be spending a lot of time apart. During the early days of Beckham's Spanish football career, Rebecca and Beckham spent a lot of time together, both professionally and socially, to assist in the transition period. According to Rebecca, it was the prolonged separation from Posh that led to David playing away from home. He was simply bored and tired of being alone. The alleged 4-month romance apparently involved sending raunchy text messages to one another. The affair headlined newspapers and gossip magazines all over the world. Adding insult to injury, Australian model Sarah Marbeck then piped up, claiming to have shared 2 nights of passion with Bex. Beckham passed off the accusations as ludicrous and refused to acknowledge any part of the story as true. Even without his validation, claiming to have had an affair with the superstar undeniably has its benefits. So powerful is the Beckham marketing train that anyone who jumps on board, even for a fleeting moment, gets amply rewarded for their efforts. Rebecca Luz has gone on to enjoy a reasonably successful career in the media since announcing their affair. With television appearances and celebrity status to play for, gullible football stars need to be on their guard. In more recent years, it's Beckham's move to America that's dominated headlines. Lured to the US by the LA Galaxy to help boost the profile of their club and Major League Soccer in general, Beckham has so far proved to be the right man for the job and is excited to be a part of it.
Potentially in the States, soccer could be as big as it is everywhere else around the world. And I believe, and I'm very proud to be part of that and going to be part of that for the next 5 years and maybe a few more years later. So,
Despite being injured for the majority of his first season, his presence around Hollywood and the US has created the hype that the MLS desperately needed. His paltry $7.7 million a year salary constitutes a massive 40% pay cut on his Real Madrid handout. But it's fair to say that Beckham's move to the US was motivated by more than his weekly pay packet. With his former pop star wife by his side, the Beckham empire, with its numerous brands, looks set to explode in the lucrative US market. Just one day after the Beckham's arrival in 2007, Victoria appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. During the interview, she handed Jay a number 23 LA Galaxy jersey with his own name on the back. Victoria also had her own NBC TV show, Victoria Beckham Coming to America, that followed her and her family's transition into American life. Despite having a few frustrating injury concerns, Beck's on-field performances have been solid and he's enjoying playing with his new teammates.
I'm aching a little bit, but I'm ready for the game tomorrow. Hopefully my ankle will hold up like it did like in the game the other night. It felt good, it felt strong. And I was happy to be back playing. You know, it's been a frustrating time.
With the help of walking headlines like David Beckham, all forms of media are set to continue covering the game and its players for generations to come. The billions of fans around the globe have so much passion for the sport that any scandal, great triumph or crushing loss is rewound, replayed and analysed in minute detail. And newcomers to the ranks of professional soccer had better get used to the idea that a minor misdemeanor to a member of the general public is tomorrow's headline in the world of the top footballer.